How did I open my out of theater reaction last night? Another Avatar movie, another 3 hours of my life gone. Which is par for the freaking course. It is. Avatar Fire and Ash. If you saw my out of theater review last night, you'll know my general thoughts on the movie. I actually think this is probably the best movie of the series. Just because it's handled, just because the story itself, I think, is interesting enough, is the most interesting of them. It handled its story beats it had to deal with the most effectively, I think. I cared, I think, the most about the characters this time around. With that said, however, I'm going to get the stuff I wasn't a fan of. And now that I've actually had a night to sleep on it and sit on it and hear a couple other opinions, I can definitely go into a bit more what I don't think works in the movie. And I agree right out the gate. It doesn't need to be 3 hours long, James. It's almost 3.5 hours long. It doesn't need to be that freaking long. Look, I could maybe work with 3 hours. There's 17 extra minutes attached beyond that. There are scenes, though, that honestly really just don't need to exist in this movie. Or there's scenes that just go on for so long that he didn't want to cut any of it out. And I'm like, look, this is why we have an editing floor. Or the editing room. This is why we have the cutting room floor. Now, that being said, this movie was probably like 5 hours long otherwise. But it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not saying I necessarily felt the length, but it is long. You better be ready for a sit. That said, that was beyond that. One of the things I brought up in the out of theater review last night is the fact that between the three movies, this is the one where it's the first time I didn't really see an advancement in like the technology, the filmmaking art, the style, anything like that. The first one, the sheer magnitude, the effects of it were, impressive for what they were. The second one, the water effects were unbelievable. This time around, we don't really have that. I'd actually go so far as to say that it looks just like if we're talking about, let's say the effects are 100%, 1 out of 100. Effects actually might be a little downgraded this time, not by like a huge margin, but there are a few moments, particularly with Spider or any of the other humans for that matter, where the live action human versus the CGI characters or environment really stands out. And that, luckily, there aren't a lot of pure human characters in the movie. You have obviously all the evil humans, and you have Spider, but and it's not always the case with Spider, admittedly. Like, there's scenes with him and Sigourney Weaver where a character, their daughter, because she's reincarnated from this first movie, or second movie, that looks fine. It looks fine. But then there's other times where, like, Jake and him will have a moment together, and it does look, or Quarrel has him. I'm like, this looks a little off. I'm not going to lie. So that does stand out a little bit to me as well. But any other real negatives I have are just kind of things that have been carried over from the other movies. The script is not the strongest. In fact, they are definitely repeating a lot of elements in the script from the other movies. The particular plot point of humanity is bad, screw humanity, we can go to hell. Like, I am kind of tired of it. Because these humans are legitimately evil for the sake of being evil. They're trying to justify terrible things simply because they're humanity. Like, it is a little jarring after all. Like, look, not all of humanity is this bad. Except, like, we know, like, there's the people who do work with the Na'vi. Jake wasn't that bad. There's the doctor and the people who still are with the air Na'vi, the mountain air Na'vi, the Force people. Sigourney Weaver wasn't bad. There's like a one marine biologist here who's not bad. But the vast majority of humanity just sucks. And maybe you can make the argument that because of how much we screwed over Earth, it's like only kind of like the worst humanity already is all that's left anyway. So yeah, I guess maybe you can make that argument that why humanity, but we literally also see just regular people on the city who have tried to they're trying to colonize the planet, and it's a lot. It's really a lot, and like I'm watching them going like, wow, I get it. I get commentary, but there is a easy way, and then there is a right way to do this. And this is kind of the easy way. The strength of these movies have never been the script or the story, really. So yeah, that's a little problematic. In fact, I'd say it's arguably either. Would I say it's arguably the worst in this movie? I don't know if I'd say it's the done the worst in this movie because the humans actually aren't as prevalent in this movie. Humanity isn't as big of an opposing force in this movie as they are in the originals, or originals in the last two. Because you also got to deal with the Fire Navi or the Ash people, as they're kind of called, and like Quarrel as well. And I don't know. It's like in a 3-hour movie, they don't seem like they're there a lot to be like the primary antagonist still at this point. But I don't know. And beyond that, I also said coming out that the climax of this film is it's rinsed repeated from both the last two films, and I didn't even think the climax of the last one was quite as good as the climax of the first film. Straight up, that's a that is a solid climax. Like it is all action, it is intense. People die, people go down. It is impressive, the climax of the first film. Absolutely. Second climax is good. It's more the first film, but more on the water. It's not as good, I think, though. Like, the impact's a little gone at this point, but it's fine. Here, not as good here. It's not bad. It's just not as good. With all that said, though, I still think this is probably the best of the three. I think I actually liked Way of Water a little bit better than the Avatar movies, which means for me they do actually get progressively better. I'm not gonna go see this film again, but they get progressively better. Uh, Again, I need to reiterate, these films still look amazing. They do. Like, I might think the effects work, at least when it comes to the human characters, are like a smidge, maybe a little less integrated, but they're still fantastic to look at. These films are still gorgeous. I will admit, though, making the climax at night does, or no, yeah, the climax happens a bit in evening, um, and or at least it goes into evening, and then so it gets a little hard to see what's going on a little bit. But still, we get to see even more of the world itself. More like flora and fauna, which is really cool. They do more with the ideas of that were kind of presented in the second movie, such as the idea, particularly the idea with the Sigourney Weaver character, Sigourney Weaver. There we go. Weaver's characters uh, role, her connection to Awa. Well, they do a lot more with that. They still don't quite explain like the theory right now is that she might be Awa manifested. That is neither confirmed nor denied in this movie. They just kind of go a bit more into it, but they also explore her kind of honestly going, if we're going to a D&D turn, kind of like elemental druid almost. So it's like she can do some really powerful stuff. They explore more with like the concept of Pandora and humanity. Obviously, in the trailer, you see that Spider is running out of air, and they are able to basically give him the ability to breathe on the planet. And they talk about that, the idea of what they could do. What if all humanity could just breathe on Pandora, then the Na'vi people are screwed. The idea of other cultures, like villainous Na'vi who have forsaken Awa, the Ash people. They explore that as well. They are by far, by the way, I don't remember the character's name, but like the leader. And she's by far one of the best things in the movie. Like, she is insane. Like, she is cruel. She's also kind of sexy, if I'm going to be honest. Like, because Na'vi are humanoid, I could say that, and it's not really that weird. And like her relationship with Quarrel, there's a scene where he's tripping balls on drugs that she gives him, and that scene is really good. That's really kind of fun. But yeah, like she is just a really cool. And again, they introduce ideas of how they interact with other Na'vi cultures and all that. It really is really fun stuff. If I'm gonna get into one more negative though, all these concepts they introduce. And by the way, they still haven't really touched on that golden whale immortal juice that they go for for the whales for. They really haven't touched on that pretty much at all. Just that they're still whaling the whales. If I'm gonna get into one other complaint though, every one of the things I just brought up, which is like really interesting, they don't go into it enough. The fire Navi, the ash people, are in the movie, but for the grand amount of time that the movie goes for, the 3 hours and 17 minutes, if I were to be a betting man about how long we actually have them on screen for that amount of time, given that they are allegedly like one of the big selling points, hell, her head's the biggest one on the billboard, even though Jake is still technically your main character, maybe half hour to 45 minutes. Maybe. Think about that. Like, in a 3 hour and 17-minute movie, your main big selling point is only on screen for that long. Which you would think for a normal movie, 45 minutes to a half hour would still be a huge amount of time. For a normal 2 hour movie, that's a good quarter to almost half of the film. For a 3 hour and 14-minute movie, that's not even a quarter of the film. Well, hold on. Is it? I'm doing the math in my head right now. No, that's not even a quarter. Even at 45 minutes, that's not even a quarter of a film for a 3 hour and 17-minute movie. Think about that. That's like, wait. And then, like, how they kind of settle that, it's like, kind of goes nowhere. But again, they expand on other things. They expand on Quarrel more. He's still an asshole. He's still the bad guy. But his humanity is, in fact, there still. He's also probably the most likable guy along with her in the movie because he's got a sense of humor. Really, he's a fun villain. He is actually a fun villain because Stephen Lang is just a really charismatic guy. So he's making some of this line delivery really fun. And yeah, they explore more with him. Like he's kind of got some confliction, but again, they just don't go all the way with it, I think is the biggest problem that I have with it. Still, the action sequences are good. Again, the world is great. They also dig on some concepts that I kind of speculated. Like I'll spoil this one little thing. I'll spoil one thing in the entirety. And it's not even a main plot point. It's something that just kind of happens. And I was kind of thinking on it in the first movie just a little bit based on how the relationship was kind of being portrayed. And then how we started seeing it a little bit in the beginning of the film. Evidently, Spider and the Sigourney Weaver chick are actually like legit into each other. Like they do actually have romantic feelings for each other. And I'm watching this like, I was kind of wondering on that. Okay, we're not going to clearly explore that anymore in the third film. Hopefully, with that fourth film comes, because I think Cameron said he wanted to do 5 of these. We're on our third one, so we're actually we're 60% of the way there. We're actually not that far away from that. We're 2/3 of the way through a franchise, or no, not 2/3. What's that math? 3/5. We're 3/5 away through a franchise. But yeah, like there's a scene where they're kind of talking after he's been saved, and she just goes, "You're perfect the way you are," and she leans in and she kisses him. I think it's gonna be maybe just a familial kiss, but no, it's a kiss, and you can see the look on his face too, like, oh, he's like, "Come on, monkey boy." He just sees look at his face like, "Get," and I'm looking at this like, "Enjoy it while it lasts, buddy," because she's probably going to kill you when you guys go that far. Because I mean, because anatomically speaking, humans and Navi are in fact compatible with each other. We see that they give birth the same way. They are apparently anatomically correct in the same way. So it can happen. And now the question just comes down to how far ahead in the next movie will we be for that relationship to maybe happen. In fact, actually, no, legit. We have the human Navi relationship with Jake and is it Nahiri? And Nahiri's magically out of it. Or is it Nahirti? Because I always blank on how you pronounce Zoe Saldana's character's name. Okay. Where is the cast and crew list for this film? Hold on. Avatar, Fire, Ash. Oh, I don't need images. Okay, where's the cast crew list? Okay. Okay, it is Neytiri. That's what it is. It's Neytiri. By the way, Another benefit, real quick, about this being all CGI is very simple. They are oh, and Kiri is the name of her character. They are able to just age. It's fine. Like Scott Lang is Stephen Lang. Sorry, Stephen Lang is in his six. No, he's 73. I mean, he's a good solid 73, but he's 73. But so him having those guns is not as easy as it used to be. Look at Stallone. Even at 80, he's still able to kind of keep in shape. But even then, that's still not easy. But anyway, what I was gonna say was we had the human Navi relationship with him and Neytiri in the first movie, obviously, but he's in an avatar suit. He's in an avatar body. Obviously, it's compatible and to reproduce with Navi, but it's not. It was still an avatar with an avatar, a human and an avatar body with avatar relationship. The idea of an actual human and an avatar, Navi having an actual physical relationship, intimate relationship, that actually does beg a lot and bring up some questions. We assume because the way they explain how Spider is saved is that like a macrobiome has like kind of like it brought infused with his body, kind of like a symbiosis. Assuming that they compatible to have kids, what does a human, straight human, and Navi child look like? Like what would that be like? Is it the new merger of? Is it just a new species? What would the risks of that be? What would the cultural implications of that be? And then the whole Awa plot as well coming in, dealing with Kiri as well. I'll also say, one minor negative: Spider, I don't mind, but I can understand why people don't like Spider. But point being, so there are actually ideas that still can be fleshed out down the road. I will say this: they ended the movie in a way where, if this were the last movie in the series, it ends perfectly. It does. But the idea that they have mentioned, but the ideas of everything I just brought up, plus delving deeper into like Awa, the idea of what happens if maybe the Navi go into space and go to Earth instead to maybe try to save Earth. I mean, there's still idea, and plus the whole immortal whale juice thing. Ambergris, I think they call it, which is what they actually call the oil, they call it the honey pot, if you will, when you're whaling. There's still avenues for storytelling in this. Plus, as far as we know, the Fire and the Ash people are still around. There may be even still more different clans of the Navi. I mean, we have basically if we're talking the elements, it's air, water, and fire so far they've gone for. Technically, earth and air in the first movie, because they're forest people, but they also are the people of the air. They fly. We've met the ocean going fair, and they do look different. And then we've met the ash people, the ash going fair, the fire Navi, if you will. So the question is, what other? Because Pandora is a huge world. So what other cultures could also exist in this world? That's the question. And where could we also deep dive and delve from them? Like lore-wise, biome-wise, because I mean, we've kind of hit all of the big ones. However, you could make, because there is weirdly a mysticism to Pandora, because we know Awa is in fact a goddess. Awa does exist on some level. So is there a bastard? I mean, we know there's those who have forsaken Awa, but what about what if there's a secondary deity of Pandora? Like a kind of a Satan to their god, if you will. A Lucifer or just something, a darkness to the light. What if there's like a corrupt necromancer group of Navi? That would actually be really, really badass. I'd be down for that. What if there's, horrifying, what just more horrifying things about it? What if there's like an ancient creature of Navi, essentially kind of a world serpent, a behemoth, a apocalyptic beast of Pandoran lore? What about that? Like, there's still a lot we can explore with this world, which is why I'm usually always down for them, even when they're long, because this world is a really good world. I'd really just like a big docu-series on the biomes and like the flora and the fauna and all that. Kind of like how you did like Alien Earth and Alien Planet back in the day. Future is Wild. I'd love a series like that for this world. Overall, look, is this film perfect? No, because none of these films are perfect. They are kind of cut and paste stories generally, and they're not really all that. They're not that complex. But you don't normally go to these movies for that. You go to these movies to have an experience, and it's still a great experience. I am glad I didn't pay the money to go see it on the for 3D. I uh, I did so. I'm glad I didn't. I mean, I'm not saying it would look bad on 3D, but I've heard, at least in this case, that the 3D isn't kind of worth it. So overall, did I enjoy it? Absolutely. I enjoyed it because I enjoyed the other one and I enjoyed the first one. They've never been like the greatest movies in the world. They've been good experiences, good times, all of that. And do I think it's probably the best, at least in my opinion? Yeah, I'd actually say that. So that's my thoughts. Real quick though, before we go, trailer wise, there wasn't a lot to talk about except for one. I mean, we do have that Tom Cruise film called The Digger, which is apparently a comedy, but what that spells about, I have no freaking clue. We had the Super Mario Brothers movie. Okay, wonderful. Actually, give me 1 second. What did I get for trailers again? I mean, I know the one, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. All right, two things though. We did not get, even though it's apparently been leaked. I thought we would have gotten the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer. Just because we're about 6-ish, 7-ish months away. If they're gonna drop an Endgame teaser, why not drop the first trailer for that? I mean, we're relatively close to it. So I am actually surprised in terms of dropping your first trailer. So I am actually kind of surprised we didn't get that. And I had heard we were actually going to get 6 minutes worth of the Odyssey attached to this film, but apparently that didn't happen. So okay, I'm going through this right now. Let's see what trailers did we get. Crime 101. Oh, Hoppers. We got Hoppers. I'm gonna already tell you that main character is probably gonna bother the hell out of me. I'm probably really gonna be bothered by that character just because of her attitude. Project Hail Mary. That I'm really looking forward to that. It's based off a book that I didn't read. I don't care. It looks like a great movie. Got Super Mario Brothers. Let's see. I know. Oh, Michael. We got the Michael trailer. Look, I keep hearing people saying that, especially people I like go to for like movie news, that film's going to be $1 billion plus film. It might be big. It might be. I'm not saying it won't be. $1 billion is a stretch, and it's the same guy who did Bohemian Rhapsody, which was near $1 billion. So I'm not saying it isn't going to be $1 billion film. Let me rephrase that. It definitely has the potential to be $1 billion film. Okay, wonderful. But to say it might be the highest grossing film of the year or one of them, I don't know. I feel like that might be a push. Might be just a bit of a push. And I know there was like one or two other trailers that we got that I cannot remember for the life of me. But no. Obviously, the big one to talk about real quick is that the Avengers Doomsday teaser trailer. Now, allegedly, we are getting like 4 of these. Not my Navi hands kicking in. We're allegedly getting 4 of these. Apparently, we're getting a Thor-based one coming up this week. So I guess like the next 4 weeks, we're going to get like teasers coming out. And yeah, if you've seen it, you know what it was. It leaked online a little bit ago, but I wasn't certain if that was true or not. That was a real trailer. But evidently, it was the real trailer. So what did I think of it? If you haven't seen it yet, actually, is it online right now? That's a good question. Because if it's online, I'll talk freely about it. If it's not online, I'm not going to talk freely about it yet. Now, granted, by the time the weekend's over, they probably will have released this online because that will be smart, and now people can. Okay, hold on. Avengers Doomsday. Come on. Okay. Avengers Doomsday trailer. Okay, is this online yet? Let's find out. Okay, they got the first. No, that's not it. Because that's stupid. You could if you've seen the trailer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Nope, that's not it. Okay, so there is no official trailer for it. Okay, so it has not been officially released yet. I won't talk too much about it then. But if you've heard the leaks, you'll know. In fact, you know what? I'll put my hand up for spoilers. When I put my hand down, we're talking the spoilers for that trailer. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're talking about the trailer. Understanding it is just a teaser. Literally, we're a year out. They got. I do actually like the Oppenheimer clock thing. They do it at the end of the show, but we're literally a year away from the movie. Don't even need a teaser yet. The fact that we know now Chris Evans is coming back as Steve Rogers. He has a kid. That kid might be a focal point of the movie. I've heard some great theories on that. So is it what I would have hoped for? No, I would have at least preferred to see Doom show up. And I think one of those 4 is going to be Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. I do think that. But for what it's worth, I didn't hate it. But here's the thing. You know you've made it. You know you probably didn't sell it when at first people went like, yes, Captain America's coming back. And then it's like it cuts after him looking at his kid to Avengers Doomsday. And I actually heard people mutter, it's like, that's it? It's a year away. And that's what we get? Like, so, look, luckily it's not a true first trailer. Luckily. Once we get the first trailer, then we can really gauge it. But I don't know. I like the idea of what they're trying to do with this marketing. I do. But I think they might be getting a little too artsy for not artsy. They might be because Marvel right now just isn't in a. Let's be honest. Marvel's not in a healthy spot. It's in a healthier spot than where it was, say, 2 years ago. Because after Endgame, we had Far From Home. Then we had the pandemic. Now, the pandemic, you really can't judge anything Marvel put out very effectively because of the pandemic. I mean, you had Black Widow, which didn't do well, but there was a whole load of bullshit behind that. If they had not done that stupid day and date release, which then people pirated the movie after that. If they had not done that and just stuck to straight theatrical, guarantee that movie made double what it would have made. It would have probably made at least almost $800 million. Guarantee you it would have. Opened on $80 million anyway with a day and date release. Then you had Shang-Chi, which actually didn't do that bad financially, all things considered, and it was well received. Then Eternals didn't do so well, but then you had Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay, great. And then you had the actual Phase 4. We were in Phase 4. But then you had Doctor Strange, Thor, and Wakanda. 2 of those movies I think are actually, one of them I think is actually really good in Multiverse of Madness. I am a Multiverse of Madness defender. Then you had Wakanda Forever, which was for the task they were trying to do was as good as they can make it, I think. And then you had Thor Love and Thunder. I will defend Thor Love and Thunder as something I find entertaining, but I will not argue with anyone who doesn't like it. But all those movies still financially did well. Then you had Quantumania. I will still defend Quantumania as a film I like, but did not do well. But then you had Guardians 3. Now, Guardians 3 had the advantage of being separate from everything else, so that was good. And then you had the Marvels, the first real big hit. And I mean, when I say real big, I mean first time a Marvel film since the beginning of since I want to say Hulk made less than $300 million. It didn't even crack 250. That's how bad the Marvels did. But then you had Deadpool and Wolverine, 1.3 billion. Then you had Brave New World, not great. But then you had Thunderbolts, which maybe didn't do so well, but was still a really good movie. A really good movie. And then you had Fantastic Four, which most people really enjoyed and did make some money. So is Marvel in its worst state ever at this point? No. In fact, if anything, I'd actually say it's doing a little bit better now because it's had several wins since the last big loss. But they need to be able to change the dynamic with Doomsday. They really do. Anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.